Welcome, everybody, to the 45th episode of the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 Bare Bones Configuration Guide live stream, where we're going out and we're configuring Dynamics from the ground up. So for those of you that haven't been following the other 44 episodes that we've been running through, then we've been configuring all of Dynamics and we've set up all the financials. And now we're working through the supply chain system of Dynamics. And what my goal here is to give you a grounding of how Dynamics works and how you configure Dynamics, and so that you can see that it's really not that hard. There's some hard things in it or some complicated things in it, but to get Dynamics up and running really isn't that hard in the long run. So what we've been doing for the past couple of live stream episodes, and what we'll be doing and continuing in this episode, is continuing the product configuration work. So we're in the product information management area, and so far we've gone out and we've configured some products, we've configured some services, we've configured dimensional products. So in the previous live stream, we went out and we created some boots that had sizes in them, and also I think we created some tunics as well. But now in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to change gears, and we're probably going to spend the next couple of live streams working through attributes and categories and the configuration of those. So that's what we're going to be working through, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over. Let's just jump in and let's start doing some of this. So this is the environment that we've been running through. So this is the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 lab. It's pretty much the same system as you'd get if you downloaded a blank environment from Lifecycle Services, or if you created a sandbox that had no data in it. We have added a little bit of currency information and some localizations, but apart from that, it's the standard system. So just to give you a little bit of orientation, then so far we've gone out and we've been creating these, let's go to the boots. We've been creating some products, and this was the product, the last product that we created before. But now what we want to do is we want to go out and move on to the next area. So what we're working through is we're working through the Bare Bones Configuration Guide series, and we're working through these documents. And what we've got is we're on the fourth module now of the seventh fourth lab module of the product information management group. And what we're going to do today is we're going to start working through this, and we're going to configure some attributes, and we'll create some attribute groups, and then we'll see how far we get along the way as to whether we start looking at category hierarchies and so forth. But I'm working through this in exactly the same way as you would if you were working through these labs, and I'm just showing you that this really isn't that hard to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk around the attributes and categories, and what an attribute is an attribute that you can associate with a product. So an attribute is usually something that isn't one of the primary dimensions. So where I've got my boots and I've got a size associated with them, then we could have a size attribute as well, but it's a little bit redundant, although we may want to do that as well. So also when the attributes aren't assigned directly to a product. So when we create an attribute or an attribute group, then we need to then link it to the product somehow. We do that through the category hierarchies. So a category is associated with the product, and then the attributes for that category are associated with that category node, and then as a result, then the attributes start showing up on the product along the way. So there's some steps here, but even though this may seem a little bit convoluted, it's actually easier because when we have products that are very similar, that all have the same attributes, then we don't have to link them up individually on the system. So let's start off, and what we're going to do is we're going to create some attributes, and I'm going to create, let's see, we're going to create a text attribute, and then also we're going to create, I'm going to create some additional ones down here for, so we've got some additional items. We've got some modifiers or some statistics that we want to have associated with these. And then also we can have capacity and material and some other items that are associated with that. So let's move over to the server and let's work through that. And we'll start setting up some of these and we'll see how we go. So what I want to do is I want to first create my attribute types. Attribute types will be associated with attributes which are linked to the category hierarchy that are linked to the product. So I'm going to, I can do a search for the attribute types. So I like going through the menu search because it's a lot faster than, sometimes it's faster than the menu. Or what we can do is we can go through the menu and I can go to products and I can go to setup and I can go to categories and attributes, and then I can find attribute types here. So let's open those up. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to pull up another window. Bear with me for a second as I find my mouse and bring this window over. And I may show you the window that I just opened up in a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to create an attribute type. And now this one is going to be just free text. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating a generic attribute type that I can use throughout the system. So this is, let me just organizing something in the back area. Okay, so I'm just going to say that this is a free text attribute. This is a catch-all that I can use for all of my different items. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is a text value. And then this is going to be just a plain Jane sort of attribute that I can use. And maybe what I'll just do is I'm just going to call this text and keep it at that. And then I'm going to save that. Now, what I was doing is in the background, I'll do this over here, is you all can go to the public version of this, of the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 environment, and you can view all of the standard data. And what I'm doing is I'm logging in here, and I'm logging in as the Dungeon Master so that I can see I can go back and look at some reference information that we've got here. So this is the standard data that we've got, and I'm going to go back and reference that in a second. But what we're now going to do is we're going to add some other items. So let's add a couple more sort of generic items, and I'm going to add a date time attribute, and then I'm going to add let's go and add another one, and this is going to be a Boolean. And save that. Let me just refresh this. So now we've got an attribute for just a true false, a date that we may have, and so forth. Now, also, what if I go back and look at the documentation, then I've got a number of other attribute types that we can set up here. So we'll set up some of these and work through them again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in, let me look at some of the ones that I've got here. I'm going to add let's add some bonus types. Stealth. So if we have a certain item, then we may have magical enhancements that are associated with these. And so what this is going to be is this is going to be an integer value, and let me see, and we can have a range that's associated with this, and I'm going to say this is from -10 to 10, or let's say this is let's go from 10 to minus 10 to 10. So what we can, this is going to say that I can't have a stealth bonus of 11 or 12 in the system. Also, what I can do is I can have something else like armor class. For our armor, then I may want to have that as an integer as well. And this armor class is going to be, just looking from there, I'm going to have this as a range from 0 to 10. I'm not quite sure what the armor class ranges should be. Now, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something else, maybe rarity. And this is going to be a text, it's going to be a text attribute, but I'm going to have this as a fixed list. So this can be, the first value is going to be common. Then I'm going to have, let's see, I've got common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and also I'm going to say legendary. So what this attribute is saying is that I can have, I'll be able to select from the list of items here, and it's going to be a fixed list, and I can only select these items here. And then let's see, I'm going to add something else, and I'm going to add condition. I'm just picking and choosing some items that I know that I can use for the products that we've got. So I've got new, used, damaged, and cursed. And then let me see, capacity material. I'll add one more, and this is going to be material. And I'm just going to have this as a fixed list, or as a text item that we can have in the system. So those are some of the items, and let's just leave it at that. So all I'm doing here is I'm just going out and creating a number of different attributes. I may go and create some more later on as we sort of go through. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to create some attributes. And so we've created the attribute types, but now we want to create an attribute that's associated with the item. So let me go back here, and I'm going to add one more. Oh, we've got armor class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now create the attributes that use these values. So some of them are going to be reusing the same attribute types. For example, Boolean, date type, and text are going to be probably common to a lot of items, whereas the armor class is going to be the one that we're going to use and set up here is not. It's going to be something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my attributes. So this is going to be the implementation of the attribute type. And I could go over to here. I can find the attributes within the menu as well, which I'll open up. So now I'm going to create a new attribute. And let's call this armor class. And the attribute type is armor class. But I'm going to give the name a sentence case instead of the full upper and lower. And then the friendly name is going to be armor class, a rating, the armor class for the item, and I'll leave the value, the help text just empty for now. So this is, now that we've got the armor class configured, then let me think. Then what we can do is, if I look at our other examples, we've got a whole lot of other attributes that we can set up here. So we've got some which are we've got the stealth bonus and we've got the damage type. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to say I want to add an attribute maybe for the material, and we'll add the rarity and also the condition so that we can use that. So let's go back to the server and let's add the rarity, because this is going to be something that we're going to be using. And as we're doing this, what we can notice, we can see some other options here that we can specify for the item. So for example, rarity may be mandatory or maybe hidden, or maybe we allow multiple values for this item. It doesn't make sense for this attribute, but we can go out and we can sort of change and tweak some of these items. So I'm going to add condition. And then I'm going to add thinking we'll just stick with those for now, and maybe we'll add a couple more later on. So this is, let me just refresh this and make sure it's correct. So let's see, we've got the armor class. That didn't seem to stick. So now we've got the armor class, we've got the condition, and we've got the rarity configured against this. Now, the more of these items we have, the richer the way that we can describe our products as we go out and create them. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop there and then move on. So we've gone out and configured some of those. And now what we're going to do is we're going to group those attributes together. So what we're going to do is we're going to say what attributes are associated with a certain group, and I think we'll be able to mix and match over those groups and set them up. So we'll set one up, which is the armor class that we'll have here in the system. And then also we'll add some more items. What we'll do is we'll create a general one that has the condition and so forth attached to it. So let's go and open the attribute groups. And we can find that here through the menu or through the search, or we can go over to the attribute groups, which are over here. And now what I can do is I can say I want to create one that's just for armor. And then armor is going to have, we're going to say what attributes are associated with this. So the armor is going to have a armor class, a condition, and also a rarity associated with it. So what we've got is these are the attributes that we're going to assign when we link something to the armor attribute group. I'll create another one, and I'm going to create another one called clothing. And I'm going to add the attributes to that. Now, clothing doesn't have an armor class, it's just going to have a condition and a rarity. And then also I'm going to create another one, which is, this will be general. And then for this, for general items, I'm also going to have a condition and a rarity. Or maybe what we can do is we can just have a rarity for the item. So what we've now got is we've got these different attribute groups that we can go out and we can link to our different types of products that maybe we have set up in the system. So the layering for this is that you actually have an attribute group, and then that has attributes associated with it, and the attributes belong to an attribute type, which can be used over and over. So there's repeating levels of these attributes that we can go out and create. I'm going to add another one here, and that's going to be storage. And let's add the rarity associated with this, so that then we can use this for the backpack. So now maybe we could have used the prefix that we've been using for the product groups here, like STR or CLH, I think I did for clothing. But in this case, I'm going to expand out the attribute groups into their full name. So we're rocking and rolling on here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to continue on, and we'll see how far we can get with this in the system. And we may configure all of this today. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create a category hierarchy. So products belong to categories, and then the categories have attributes associated with them, which all of this rolls up to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a category, and I think I'm going to create one for sales. Although I may do something a little bit different than I've got in the documentation, but it's still going to be the same process. And let's go. I'm just looking at the documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find now the category hierarchies. So I want to find the one that's in the product information management. And so I can find that through the menu, or I can go over here to the category hierarchies. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new category hierarchy. So this is going to be our list of products. And I'm going to, I've got this set up as equipment, but we're going to reference this hierarchy. So I'm going to call this let's stick with what I had. I'll do and I'm just thinking here, I like to name things the right way. And so I'm going to name this. I'm trying to think of the best global. So this is, and you'll sort of see why I sort of struggled or thought a little bit about this category as we move forward. So now what I've got is I've created this global category hierarchy. So this is the category hierarchy that contains everything that I may want to set up. So now what we want to do is we want to create our category nodes. And I'm going to start off with the first one, which is all. And this is going to be all products. So I'm giving this a description and a name that's associated with it. So now that I've done that, there's other information that we can set up here, but I'm not going to do anything just yet. So I'm going to save this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me just duplicate this tab here. And I'm going to go into my release products, because I want to keep everything consistent. So what I've got is I've got this group for storage items. So I've got barrels and backpacks. And then also I've got sacks down here. And then also I've got clothing, which I actually want to change this to. Let me see if I can change the search name. Then I'm going to go to the product. Let's just do a refresh here and back up. So the reason why I did this is I wanted to make these match, but actually I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to clothing. So that I'm being really particular about this because I want the characters to be, in this case, 4 characters in the system. And you'll see why I want to do this here. So now I've got a parent category. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one. And this is going to be clothing. And the code that I'm going to use here is going to be CLTH, which is the code or the prefix that I used for my product. And I'm going to have clothing here. And so I was being very careful about how I set this up. Now, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a node for storage. And so this is, now what I do is if I want to create a new category node here. And if I clicked on create category node right now, then it's going to create a node underneath clothing. But I want to go back up to the all, and I want to create a new one here. This is going to be storage. And I'm going to use that code here. I'm going to say storage. So what we're doing is we're building out a hierarchy that we can use. Let me see. I've got storage items. I've got clothing, and I've got service items. And let's add the service as well. I'm just renaming the service search name here to make things look a little bit better. And then I'm going to go back to my category nodes, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a new category node. Now, underneath the services, I'm going to go out and do something a little bit different here. And I'm going to and I just renamed the search name because as I'm working through this, I'm trying to work out the best way to manage this. But I'm going to say that I'm going to have repair and copying services, and we may change that later on. But I'm going to have under here, I'm going to have a new category here, which is repair. And then I'm going to have a new category node here, which is copying. And then that, again, referencing back to what I set up as CPY. Now, as I'm thinking about this, I'm just working through what is the best way to do this. I may change this code to be service repair and service copy so that it matches up with the search name that we have here in the product. So what we've now done is we've started to create the hierarchy that we're setting up for our product. And I'm being very purposeful on how I set this up and how I configure this and how I have the naming here. Because later on, as we go through, we can use these hierarchies for pricing, and we can use it for a number of different things that we set up in the system. And having some smart naming or grouping of these items is very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. And we've spent half an hour sort of going out, and we created attributes, and we've started to create the category hierarchy. What we're going to do in the next live stream is we're going to be going out and we're going to be associating these hierarchies with roles in the system, and then we're going to link the products to those category hierarchies. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be able to modify the attributes that are associated with the products along the way. So that sort of completes the attribute management process that we can have for the products. But I want to keep this to half an hour, so it's a manageable sort of chunk for people to view and sort of track on their daily basis. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop. If anyone's interested in any of what we're showing here, then let me just do a pitch for. So if you want any of this documentation, then you can just go to adnd365.com/start, and you're going to see all of the guides that we've got here. We've got the 5th edition guides, and then also we've got all of the other guides showing up here. But I wanted to show this because you can actually download all of these guides, and you can do this yourself. If you want to see that, then again, all you have to do is just go to adnd365.com/start, and it's going to take you here and you can actually see the guides. They're not free, but it's taken a lot of time to compile these. But if you're really interested and if you want to work through this, then you can. If you want to support us, then you can go to the Patreon site. The Patreon site is patreon.com/ADND365. You can go out and you can support the project and help keep the servers up and running. Every copper piece helps, and you can try to scan the link that's up there, or again, just go to Patreon and manage that. And I hope this is interesting. I hope this is useful for you all and gives you insight into how we're building up and setting up the system. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close off, and everyone have a great day until the next live stream.